welcome back to the 7 Studio Avenue podcast. Today is a very special episode, and by special I mean it's 4 in the morning and we're all extremely tired. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Putting it tired's a bit of an understatement, Sam. It's me, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Joey. I'm on my 4th cup of coffee. I'm still going strong, though.
It's Logan here. I'm still pretty awake.
What's up, guys? It's Jalen, and as you can hear, my voice is a little bit scratchy because I just came from prom.
Hi guys, it's Brian, and as you can tell by the sound of my voice, I'm pretty exhausted. I had to work this morning, and then prom.
We're
and
all
then
pretty
here.
exhausted.
Yeah. It's not
All
a
right.
contest, Brian.
So for today, we're mainly going to be talking about Solo, a Star Wars story, but before that, we're going to get some video game news in real quick. Starting off, a Superman game by Rocksteady, which is the same company that created the Batman Arkham games, is rumored to be in the works. It's going to be running on Unreal Engine 4. It's going to have a big open world of Metropolis, about 3 times the size of Arkham Knight. You cannot play as Clark Kent. The main villain will be Brainiac, and Superman.
So it's a Superman movie, but you can't play as Clark Kent.
No.
I'm
Because
sure
you couldn't really play as Bruce Wayne for the
all
Arkham
those
games.
Clark Kent enthusiasts are just like, oh,
Well,
darn.
there were some missions that required you to be. There were some missions in the Batman games that required you to be Bruce Wayne for it, and then you'd have to go into Batman.
That's true.
This game can't possibly be worse than Superman 64.
I was honestly thinking the
that's
same
right.
thing. I was going to bring that up.
So the first thing I thought when I heard about this game is, well, even though the map is huge, Superman can travel like insanely fast. So they said the Superman will be nerfed. He won't be as powerful as he truly is, which is good to know. Semi-destructible environments. Combat system will integrate flying, similar to DBZ games where you can punch someone and then zoom towards them and repeat. It will be set within the Arkhamverse. And that's really all there is to that game. It's a rumor at the moment. Maybe we'll see something at E3. And speaking of E3, it starts June 12th, and we'll be sure to cover all the games that are released and or hinted towards there. So look forward to that. Joey, you want to talk about something?
Our trailer released, I believe, Thursday about the new Pokemon Switch game. It looks pretty interesting. I was having a discussion with my friend Neo. We didn't know if it was going to be more of the story RPG games that you get from regular Pokemon games, or like Pokemon Go 2.0, because as you can see in the trailer, you can link Pokemon Go, for those of you who still actually play it, you can link it with the Nintendo Switch game, and you can get special rewards, and the battling is the same as it is on the DS games, but the catching is the same catching as it is on Pokemon Go, but just with the Nintendo Switch joystick.
Gotta catch them all.
It seemed like a mix of both your typical Pokemon game and then Pokemon Go. The only real bummer I saw in that trailer was the fact that you can't battle wild Pokemon. That's frustrating.
And I think an explanation for it being a lot like Pokemon Go. Obviously, the formula has worked, even if the population for the game has fallen off a lot. But on top of that, the Switch is still a mobile console, so they want to kind of give you that same feel, you know?
My feel is I don't have a Nintendo Switch, but I'm not going to spend $360, including the game, to just buy the Pokemon game and then never use a Nintendo Switch ever again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Lastly, for our video game news, a gameplay trailer was released for Battlefield 5. When I first saw that Battlefield 5 was live streaming, I thought that it was going to be a modern-day game about warfare. Maybe it would take place after Battlefield 4.
I was honestly hoping for Vietnam.
Interesting. But it's actually World War II. The only reason they called it Battlefield 5 is because Battlefield 2 already exists, before Battlefield 1 hadn't existed, and since it was World War I oriented, they called it Battlefield 1. Confusing naming. A little bit disappointing. To me, it looks better than Battlefield 1, but I would prefer more Modern Warfare, honestly.
Still not going to buy it.
Wasn't going to buy it either, but I don't know.
All right, that's it for our video game news.
Time to hop into Solo.
Before we start Solo, I wanted to just say make sure to follow us on Twitter at 7studioav. Make sure to check out our website, 7studioav.weebly.com. Subscribe to our mailing list, which is on our website, and follow us on Instagram. 7studioav is their Instagram, and we also have a Patreon up now too.
Let's start our non-spoiler discussion first, and then we'll move into our spoiler discussion.
All right, so what was the feel of this movie for you? Because I don't know about you guys, but I had a lot of fun at this movie.
Honestly, yeah, fun.
Yeah, it's a really fun movie. I think that probably Ron Howard was probably the best person to make this movie because he really set the tone for what this movie would be, and I think it really works well with the world.
Whatever development problems it had during production, they do not come through in the final product.
The one thing I would say is, I mean, it might have been the fact that when I watched it was in the theater with not a lot of people, but not a ton of people laughed at a lot of the jokes. Those kind of just were a little bit dry, and I remember there was a lot of worry about that.
I wouldn't say like the jokes were like laugh out loud, man, that was hilarious.
But again, it's not a comedy movie.
Yeah.
The jokes are not as obnoxious as they are in
Yeah.
like Force Awakens or Last
That's
Jedi.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to point out something that I really liked about the movie was the music. They did a really good job of using the old music in specific scenes, but what I loved the most was the new music, like what seemed to be maybe Han Solo's theme. I wasn't sure, and some of the other, and the theme for what was the group that what was the group?
Crimson Dawn?
No, they were
The
originally
Cloud Riders, I forgot what their name is.
Nexus or something, or
Enfys
Nest.
Memphis Nest,
and
yeah.
the Marauders.
I really liked their theme. That was cool. It wasn't as Star Wars-esque as usual, but it sounded really good.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah. I agree with Jalen as far as they were really well with incorporating some of the classic Star Wars sounds and notes. And
Especially in one scene, which we can't get into now,
Right.
but I'm sure you guys know what I'm
but
talking
it's just
about.
like key moments that really hits the nostalgia and really ups the whole film.
Yeah, so I would say the movie is all around good. I would probably give it a 8.7 out of 10 maybe.
I agree.
I'd say for now it's definitely in my top 3 favorite Star Wars
I think
films.
I liked it more than Rogue One, and me and Jeff also we were talking about how we really like the cast. Donald Glover, Emilia Clarke, who was the main guy for
Alden Ehrenreich.
and Woody Harrelson. They were
Woody
all
Harrelson.
incredible.
I think standouts are Alden Ehrenreich. What's Childish Gambino's real name?
Donald Glover.
Donald
Donald
Glover
Glover.
and Paul Bettany as the villain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was good
I really
too.
liked him how one minute he's stabbing and threatening them, and then the next minute he's all cheery and British and we
Yeah.
should do this again
It was good.
sometime. This
It
was
was
a
really
lot
good.
of fun.
It was a character archetype definitely, but it was still done well.
The only performance I had a problem with, I think, is Emilia Clarke is pretty wooden in most of the roles that she plays. She doesn't really show a lot of emotion most of the time. And then there's just this one time, like during the train heist, when Woody Harrelson's character just said a line, and he was like clearly reacting to CGI, and he was like, "Oh wow," and like he just didn't show any expression. I laughed out loud in the theater. I was like, "Is that the best you could do? You couldn't have cut another take?"
Yeah.
Um,
So-
me and Jeff were saying that we would like to honestly even see almost like a Solo 2, like a sequel to Solo, because it takes place, 20 years before?
10 years
10
before.
years.
10
Because
years before the Battle
Chewbacca
of the Yavin?
is 190 in this
Yeah.
movie, and we know that he's 200
by the Battle of Yavin.
in A New Hope.
So
which is the first
we
Star
wouldn't
Wars.
mind seeing a sequel
So there's
to
a
this
10-year
movie.
gap, and there's a lot they could film.
If
Yeah.
they do like a
Considering-
Lando movie or something, that
Yeah,
would be a good way of
I mean, I
doing
don't
it.
think they'll do that, but honestly, I would love to see, me and Jeff said we would love to see this cast again. They did a good job.
Yeah. I had some problems with the plot being a little predictable at some points. Like, there were some points where I was like, oh, okay, they're going to do this and they're going to do that. But there is one moment that comes completely out of nowhere. We'll get into that in spoilers. But we all literally lost our minds and were jumping out of our seat like children in a candy store.
I think
Now,
that's
admittedly, if you haven't consumed any other Star Wars media, you may be a little confused at this reveal, but
yeah, it's out of
I
a little
feel
out
like
of place, but it's still fun.
a lot of fans can still like appreciate
I think
it for
that's
what,
what
it is.
makes these films like Rogue One and Solo great, is because they are kind of primarily for the fans, and there are references that don't detract from the film. Like for instance, at one point, Woody Harrelson's character is
Spoiler alert, by the way.
Tobias was his name.
mild spoiler, but he's talking to Lando, and Lando says, "Oh, you're the guy who killed Aura Singh." Now we get from the context and the acting that Aura Singh is this
Someone with
important
prestige,
person,
yeah.
so his reputation is carried through. But if you're a Star Wars fan, you know that as the name of a bounty hunter who was a background character in Phantom Menace, and then
In
made
fact, worked alongside one of the most famous bounty hunters, Cad Bane, in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, given more emphasis in the Clone Wars. So for people who have watched the Clone Wars and other Star Wars stuff, they get that reference and they get excited.
I think now's a good time to move to our spoiler review.
All right. Do we want to start with the biggest spoiler of them all?
Yep.
That
So-
reveal.
Here it comes.
There's
Spoilers.
there's a moment in the film after Quinlan Voss, Dryden Voss's death, where it's revealed that Emilia Clarke's character may not have the purest of intentions, and she uses his ring to summon a hologram, and we see these robotic legs. And I was thinking at first, is this Vader? Is this some kind of Sith?
I knew immediately when I heard
But
that
then
voice.
we hear the voice
I didn't expect.
of Sam Witwer.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, he voices Darth Maul in Clone Wars and Rebels. So he is the voice of Darth Maul. And then the camera pans up to the hooded hologram, and he takes the hood off, and it's Ray Park in the Darth Maul makeup. And it was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I honestly was confused because I thought this movie would have no talk necessarily of Jedi or Sith or anything mythical like that.
They
And
managed
on
to
top of that,
and-
yeah.
they
so
managed
I
to
was
sneak
like-
in a lightsaber.
Yeah, so as I'm watching this scene, like he looks and he sounds like a Sith Lord, but they're not gonna put a Sith Lord in this movie. It's probably just someone who's similar. And then
It's Darth Maul.
it's Darth Maul. I'm like, what? And not only did it feel a little out of place, even though I loved it, it was very random where he just force grabs his lightsaber and turns it on. Like that made no sense.
If you, like we've said before, if you've been keeping up with all the Star Wars media, it's not as left field as you would probably think. The whole reveal of Maul being this leader of a crime syndicate is we see the part of that in the end of Clone Wars where he assembles the
Shadow
Collective, and that ends up falling apart. And in Star Wars Rebels, he talks about how he was the leader of these syndicates, and we now know that's the
Crimson
Dawn. So it's not totally out of left field, I would say.
What I really liked is how they were able to show his Rebels lightsaber, which is another good Easter egg for the fans that have seen all of this stuff. And the one thing I dislike about this is that it raises so many questions that we already kind of know the answer to. Because of Rebels, we know that, spoiler, he dies in the desert, bested by Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I'm kind of upset about, because as much as I love what they did with him in Rebels and his relationship with Ezra and his duel with Obi-Wan, I would have absolutely loved to see
That in a
the
movie?
Obi-Wan spin-off featuring like imagine if that was the reason that Obi-Wan comes out of hiding. Like he's just trying to live the simple life on Tatooine out in hiding.
Yeah,
but he
imagine
hears
if-
of this powerful
imagine if
syndicate.
Maul, since we clearly see he's involved in some of the criminal underworld of Star Wars, getting involved with something on Tatooine, where
something
maybe
with,
he's like
with the Hutts.
yeah,
We know- because
competition
we
with
know
the
from
Hutts, and he's
Clone
trying to take
Wars-
over, and then he establishes almost like a dynasty somewhere on Tatooine, and is causing issues. And so maybe then Maul senses Luke and starts getting ideas, or maybe maybe an assassin is sent to Luke's home, and Obi-Wan has to protect him, and then it ends with a showdown between the two. That would be amazing.
I
highly
think
doubt they
that just conflicts too much with Rebels.
I highly doubt they would ever do this, but I would 100% be on board with them just scrapping everything with what they did with him in Rebels and just giving
would
him
not be
the
okay with
movie.
that at all.
I would love
The
that.
one thing
I
about Star
wouldn't
Wars
be
that's
okay with
amazing is
that.
their continuity, and I would not.
As much as I love their
okay.
continuity, Pablo Hidalgo could just say, forget about what happened in Rebels. Here is Ray Park and Sam Witwer playing Darth Maul in a live-action movie.
Wait, so you're telling me everything would be like
No,
voice
just-
acted.
I mean, it could
It could
be
literally
done
just be-
using the world between worlds.
Yeah.
But that's a
They
that's
could
a stretch.
they could just change it so that okay, so in Rebels, Maul is surprised that Obi-Wan is still alive. They could do something with the Obi-Wan movie where Maul thinks he's gone or something like that. I don't care how they do it. I'm just saying it would be amazing to see a live-action Darth Maul in a movie with live-action Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan.
I
Kenobi.
mean, yeah, in hindsight,
like if I had
that
a
would
genie,
be cool.
if I had a genie, that'd be one of the things I wish for.
I mean, talking about underdogs, Darth Maul was one of the worst characters in Star Wars, and has become one of the most loved. Like,
I don't,
I
I don't think he was
disagree
ever
with
one
that.
of the worst.
He was-
Most
what do you-
underused.
Okay.
Was he ever really a character? He
Help
just
me out
showed up
here.
and he didn't
Help
do
me out,
anything.
yeah.
He was the coolest part of
He looked
Phantom
cool.
Menace.
He looked cool. He
Hold
didn't
on,
do
hold
anything.
on, hold on.
That's when he died.
He was
That's
the
literally all he
coolest-
did.
He was the coolest part of Phantom Menace for many fans. And the comics that came after were the only things that expanded his character and made him even cooler.
Yeah. But
So-
based
okay,
on the
and I'm
movie,
saying when he
was
first
nothing.
appeared,
Which
in what
is
was it,
why-
99, he was a trash character.
Take away your,
one of
I mean,
the worst
he wasn't
villains.
trash. He just didn't do anything. He was
Yeah, he was a
looked
terrible
cool, and
villain.
it was like, who is this? And
Agree
then
to
saw him in the trailer,
disagree.
like, oh, he looks cool, and
Yeah,
then he
well,
did nothing.
we'll
He
just-
died.
He just
we'll
looked cool. That's
disagree.
literally it.
No,
You
no, no.
Agreed
can't,
to
you can't tell me in the Phantom Menace that he was a good character.
Agreed to disagree.
It's the same thing with
Anyway,
Boba Fett. It's
A
just like, he
character with
looks
no
cool, but he doesn't
lines
do
and little
anything.
expressions.
Okay,
Okay, you guys are kind of beating a
yeah.
dead horse, but speaking of dead horses, Tobias Beckett. I really like that he didn't say, "Good job, kid. Always shoot first." That would have kind of
Yeah.
ruined the like.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing like that really bothered me when he was like, the Imperial officer was like, "Who's your people?" And he's like, "No one." And he's like, Han
Solo. Yeah, that
I
was,
was
like,
like,
that was very
like-
on
that
the
was-
nose.
that was-
I pointed
everything
that
else
out in the
was-
theater.
I liked that. I thought
I
that
did
was
not.
No, I thought it was like very on the nose and cheesy.
What I did like about the Imperial recruitment is how they used the Imperial March, except they played it in like
a major
a major
It's in
key to make
major
it sound all.
Speaking of that, I thought the movie did a really
inspiring.
good job of referencing real life things.
Like World War I
Two
on
things in
Mumbai.
particular.
Yeah.
First, you
With
see
the trenches.
specific propaganda, which reminds you of like Nazi Germany. Then like being the like people in poverty being the ones that are drafted in war, and then like the trench warfare. But on top of it, what was really interesting is the whole droid revolution part. That
Yeah.
was really cool. Like they've talked like kind of like swept under the rug for years the like abuse that drugs, not drugs, drugs, the abuse that droids have suffered in the Star Wars universe, and yeah, they did a good job in this movie of addressing that. It's really
The
cool.
first time of a
They had like a droid civil rights activist almost.
in L3, the droid.
Yeah,
Which was a very interesting character.
Which was Lando's lover, which is even
It's
more.
heavily implied Lando had sex with that robot. I'm
in
just
the
saying.
Or at
last
least
shot
tried to.
story,
She's-
and not only that he had a droid orgy. So
Oh my
That
God.
Lando
Yeah.
Calrissian
That orgy, I'll
with his
tell you one
with
thing.
his cape rooms and
I think
You think that
who's
was
who,
like
who's the droid from Rogue One?
K2SO.
K2.
yeah.
K2 would and L3 I think would hit it off. Whether they be friends or lovers, who knows? But I think
They're
they.
kind of
Okay,
like-
they're droids, man. Let's
Jalen-
Whoa!
Jalen's gonna go
Well,
home and write some
Lando
fanfic.
wants to have sex with L3,
Okay,
so I
okay,
think nothing's out of the
wait,
ordinary.
Okay, we spent a little bit
let's
too much
not
time
go
talking
there.
about
telling me
droid
you wouldn't have
sex.
sex
Droid
with
sex.
K2SO.
Speaking of droids, I think it's interesting how they uploaded her to the Millennium Falcon.
I totally called that in the film.
It makes-
I to-
yeah,
That
you
means-
literally leaned over to me and was like, "They're
She's
gonna upload her
I
brain."
mean,
to the
she's still
navigation
there
video."
in Last Jedi, guys. It's kind of
Yeah, and
In Empire
I saw an
Strikes Back-
interesting comment about how when they're going back to Cloud City, it's like L3 is almost going home, to Lando.
I saw this thing where at one point in Empire, C-3PO says, "I don't know where your ship learned to communicate, but it's speaking in the most peculiar way." So
That's cool.
it's sort
That's
of
really cool.
the spirit of L3.
They did a really good job on the Millennium Falcon overall. Like, just it has its own origin story essentially, which is really cool. To see.
But we didn't see the Millennium Falcon we all know and love until after the Kessel Run.
I do
Well,
not
yeah,
love
that's.
that.
I
Millennium
mean,
Falcon.
like I said, it's the
I
origin
love
story.
Lando's Millennium Falcon. It's so sleek.
It's sleek and sexy, yes, but it's not the Millennium
Okay,
It doesn't
Falcon.
have
okay,
the
It
same
isn't the
charisma.
Millennium Falcon.
Now's a good time for a rant. I absolutely hate that the Millennium Falcon's cockpit is to the very side. I think it's the
I
dumbest
do
thing.
too. And there's actually
There's some reaction shots where Han looks out to his left and like sees TIE fighters. He should see the side of the gigantic ship. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen on a ship.
To be honest, when I was a kid, I thought the same thing, but then I grew up with it and I don't care anymore.
I still think it's
Star
Yeah, I
Wars.
dumbest.
really couldn't. I really couldn't.
But on the topic of the Millennium Falcon, Lando's Millennium Falcon is just another YT-1300 to me.
It's a special YT-1300.
It's just
Because he
another
modified.
one.
He put in an escape pod, which is good, an actual escape pod, instead of like the escape coffins that we see in Last Jedi. I also like how every part of why the Millennium Falcons is damaged comes from
The
what happens
Kessel
in the
Run,
Kessel
yeah.
Run.
I mean, don't
Which-
don't they also like in the movie they like get rid of like a escape pod because there's no escape pod on the Falcon and the
Yeah,
original
that's
movies?
Right.
that's
Yeah.
what the
From
front
the
of the
escape.
ship is.
Yeah.
Did for a long time was it pronounced parsecs or parsecs?
Parsecs.
Parsecs.
Parsecs. A lot of people thought that was a time, right? But
No,
now
it's a unit
it's
of
a measure
measurement.
of distance.
Yeah, now
So
it's distance. That was
in,
kinda cool to
in
see.
Legends, Millennium Falcon is able to complete the run in less parsecs because it can go fast enough to surpass black holes. It can get closer to black holes than other ships, which we kind of see in this film.
With it escaping the maw and such.
And that giant tentacle creature, which we can all pretty much agree that that's a loose sort of Easter egg to Abeloth.
Yeah.
Between the tentacles and like the many teeth.
And the whole thing about this, it's this immense, powerful creature being held in place by a black hole. In this case, it's the Maw, which is like it directly relates to Abeloth, the most powerful being in the galaxy, who was within the Maelstrom, being held back by black holes.
I think we're delving too much into Star Wars Legends.
I'm
We need to
always amazed
stray
with
away from that.
I'm always amazed with the tension that these
Bring it back.
anthology films are able to create because we know how they're going to end. Like one of the things
Yeah, I
that I
like
was
that too.
one of the
like-
things that I was worried
That's
about.
why I like.
with-
Honestly, I like the prequels, even though they're bad movies.
One of the
'cause-
things I was worried about with Rogue One when they first announced was how is this going to be interesting? We know they get the plans. How is this going to be interesting? But they
and what
made it
happens
interesting.
to these characters because
There's-
we know we
there's
don't see
something-
them.
We know
right?
Han Solo dies when his son stabs him through the chest with a lightsaber. So the fact, and we know that Lando survives and Chewbacca survives. So the fact that they're able to create tension with these characters in the Kessel Run scene, I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because you're wondering how are they going to get out of this one?
I think there's something always pretty powerful about knowing the end of a story and seeing it all just come together. I don't,
And then
I just
somehow
really
they
like that
still
idea.
manage to subvert your expectations.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice to
that's
see
good.
the game of Sabacc.
Yeah, I talked to Jeff while we were watching, and I was like, we need to get this game and learn how to play it because that'll be really fun.
There is an app that you can download that actually allows you to play it. I actually forgot what the name of the app is, but we can check that out later.
And I love how, just like in Legends, Han winning the Falcon fair and square is just because he was a better cheater than Lando.
because they
Yeah, I
both
like that.
cheated. Yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure it was Star Wars Explained that pointed out that. So, when Lando agrees to help him, he says he'll do it for 50% of the cut. Then Tobias gets him down to 25% of the cut. And then when he has to take the parking boot off the Millennium Falcon, he's like, it'll cost you 5%. So, in a way, Lando's deal is getting worse all the time.
Good one, Jeffrey.
Speaking of just other parts of the movie, I just really like the scene where Han and Chewie meet for the first time,
Yeah.
and it kind of confirms, I think Chewie's been eating people for a long time.
Yeah.
I love-
for some reason,
I love-
when shut up, Jalen.
Oh,
Yeah.
whoa,
For,
whoa.
for some reason, when me and Jeffrey, when we first saw the scene, we were like, "Is it a
Rancor?"
Rancor?"
And then we see the fur, and I'm like, oh, it's a Wampa or something.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense that it's Chewbacca.
Chewbacca has been eating humans.
Yeah,
I mean,
what they wouldn't
kinda
say,
has been.
feed him to the beast wouldn't be like a punishment for treason if Chewbacca hadn't already eaten people.
Yeah.
Also, another reason we could see like a sequel to this movie is the fact that Chewbacca, we don't see him try to like free his tribe or whatever.
Right.
He's
Well,
like-
No,
there's
it
a-
was just other Wookiees.
Yeah, just
They
some
weren't
random
related
Wookiees,
to him
yeah.
anyway.
There's
They
a
were
moment
just
in
other
Kessel where he sees the Wookiees escaping, and he sees Han kind of escaping, and like you can see him make that choice. Like, I'm gonna go with this guy. This guy he's doing something right here.
Which kind of shows he still hasn't like given Han his life debt because
Right.
obviously he would stay with Han.
I also really like that we finally see a Wookiee rip someone's arms off. We've heard about it for years. We finally saw it.
I'm just excited if we get to see Alden Ehrenreich in more of these movies, how he actually becomes like a scumbag, like how Han is in the beginning of 4, because I don't think, or episode 4, because I don't think at the end of this movie he's at that point yet. I think there's still a lot of growth that
He's still too charming and charismatic.
Yeah, and then he'll get eventually to like, I guess maybe when he gets with Jabba and stuff,
Yeah.
that's really kicks off that, and he becomes who he is in episode 4.
Maybe it has something to do with Kiara escaping.
Maybe.
And maybe something in the sequel, we see something happen with Kiara where it really like, shakes him to his core. Because he does have like that sort of arrogance to him that Harrison Ford portrayed. Like, we made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
If I can
If you round
I
down.
can interrupt really quickly, our our producer just came in, and the podcast officially has its own Keurig.
Woo!
So,
As-
Moving on up, guys.
I mean, we
As-
need it since it's like 4:30 in the morning
has
right
absolutely nothing to do with Solo, but just fun.
just to
You know
point
what?
that out.
It's nice to have a win.
Wait a second. Lando added a mini bar to the Millennium Falcon. All right, that's next for the podcast. All right, a mini bar.
I'm pretty sure Han renovated all that. It's probably a game room now. All those games aren't there anymore.
Someone also pointed out that he has like a mini model of Cloud City, which is kind of weird. Like,
At
Is he
this
from
point in
Cloud City,
time,
or
is
No.
he the Baron
now.
of Cloud
Yeah,
City?
I don't think so, because
he also
he-
says in the movie that he hates
I hate mining colonies.
Yeah, and then he goes on to be the
Ironic.
leader of one.
irony, Jalen.
So,
Speaking
You're
of
supposed to laugh.
mining colonies, I really liked the way the film portrayed Kessel as like
Yeah, I did
this hopeless,
just so
dreadful.
sandy and muddy.
Yeah.
The best thing about this film is it actually gives us Rogue One did a little too, but especially this film, like a look outside, like how regular people function within the world. Like, it's not like all Jedis; it's like everyday people. Like, they basically have in this movie like an airport that they have to go through. It's like that's how regular people travel when they don't all
Go
have
through
phone a
space
spaceship.
TSA.
That's something
Yeah,
that
it's,
I've
like,
actually
honestly really interesting.
wanted to see in a while, because whenever I'm going through airport security, I always think, how exactly does this work in Star Wars? Because can you imagine space customs?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing in Star Wars that breaks my suspension of disbelief, is like the fact that they treat entire planets as though they were towns. But so, you guys have anything else major to say about Solo?
I think that we're pretty much wrapping it up here.
Yeah, I think.
Great movie. It did not
movie.
deserve its like
No.
haters. It doesn't deserve the money that
Doesn't
it didn't
deserve the
receive.
lackluster
I
start.
think the
Yeah.
real
It's a much
problem
better
with the
movie. People
lackluster.
should see it.
I feel like the only real problem with the lackluster start was the fact that there was pretty much no marketing, and
Yeah,
if
there really wasn't.
Too
that
close
was-
to Last Jedi doesn't help.
It's
Yeah.
honestly just generally a good movie because Ron Howard's
Yeah.
generally a good director and he did
Mm-hmm.
really wonders on this movie and I wish
Yeah.
it made more.
All right, so Solo's a good movie. Go watch it.
We're gonna wrap
Yeah,
it up.
that's it.
now.
Remember to follow us on Twitter at 7studioav. Visit our website at 7studioav.weebly.com to subscribe to our mailing list and visit our Patreon page. Also remember to follow us on Instagram at 7studioav. All right, guys. See you in 7.
See you in
See you in
7.
7.